to hear myself, to not hear myself. So, Eleanor, how are you doing? Or
I'm
Ellie?
good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Yeah, you can call me Ellie.
Ellie.
People usually go by Ellie. So
Eleanor is so official. So official.
someone told me today that it sounds like an old lady name. So now I'm a little
I
turned
think
off
it's
from that name. I
it's
want to be called
classic.
Ellie for the rest of my life.
Ellie's Gen Z. Ellie's Gen Z. It's definitely
Very
not.
Gen Z.
Yeah. So,
But
well,
I'm a
let's
millennial.
talk. Yeah, I am as well. Well, I'm kind of on the cusp of millennial and Generation X. So, I'm an
Gotcha.
elder millennial. There we go. So, okay, so you work for Fox Business, and you have been, covering this case. And so, before we get into what's going on right now with the case, I want to know like a little bit about your background. How did you get into this, and were you like involved in crypto at all before you started covering the case?
So I was not really involved in crypto before I started covering the case. I got interested in crypto because of the SEC Rebel case. And why I got into it was because last September I'd been working with Charlie Gasparino, my boss, for about 4 months at that point. And we had seen on Twitter, a lot of activity from the XRP community, and we were getting tagged in things. And we're like, all right, let's check this out. And I believe it was John Deaton who tweeted at Liz Clayman and Charlie saying, you guys have the opportunity to cover one of the most significant financial stories in history. Will you report? And Charlie came back and retweeted John and said, I will report. So from that day, I believe it was September 24th, 2021, we got into the case and we did the research. We dug deep. We talked to a lot of people involved in the case. And it was just so fascinating. It took us from September. I think we published the 10,000 word piece we did on the case in November 24th. It was the day before Thanksgiving. And it was a process, but I learned a lot. And just from there, learning about cryptos, learning about the technology behind it, really just piqued my interest. So that's really how I got into it.
Yeah, well, that's definitely good that you got into it because you've uncovered a lot of stuff. The thing I'm really interested in is I would like to know kind of like your perspective going into this, and now where you're at now with it, if it's changed at all about the SEC in general.
Yeah, good question. So when we first started, our basis was that we're going to go into this as journalists with an open mind and be objective and not, take too many, things we see on Twitter or anywhere else, seriously until we've actually done the investigation. So that was always our mindset. And Charlie has always been a big proponent of, saying that with this case specifically, and I've written it down because I always mess up what he says. It's confluence doesn't equal causation. So, because there's an appearance of impropriety doesn't mean that there's corruption. But as we've dug deeper, as we did the expose, as we've watched the case unfold for the last few months, there are definitely conflicts of interest, and they're very, I would say, glaring. Especially I would say the games the SEC is playing lately. They seem to be trying to at least slow down the case to make it work in their favor with the 180, shall we say, on the Hinman emails and whether they should be attorney-client privilege, whether they were Hinman's opinion. I think there's some, games going on here, especially as we wind down the case. Not wind down the case, but come to a hopefully a conclusion soon. I hear it won't be resolved until next year, but I've definitely noticed some conflicts of interest that we've commented on. I've tweeted a lot about it. Charlie's tweeted a lot about it. I'm in the middle of writing an article just to give an update on everything lately. The documents that Empower was able to receive through the FOIA requests. Those are very interesting. And again, I'm not saying that there's corruption here at all. I'm saying that maybe there was some oversight and people didn't do what they were supposed to do at the time, and it kind of slipped through the cracks. And now we're dealing with the lawsuit that we're dealing with. But it's been very interesting to cover and kind of see unfold.
Yeah, I definitely say I'm on record as saying the SEC is the most corrupt organization in the world. What they have done and what we've uncovered with the bribes, the money that goes behind the scenes, like it is really sad that these are the people who are supposed to be protecting us. And I think if we put anybody at the SEC, maybe besides Hester Pierce, on trial, I think they would all go to prison. That's the way I feel about it. And it continues to just be more and more and more. And I think that as this case continues as well, that what they're seeing is there's going to be a lot more damage to them than it is going to be to Ripple. So where do we stand right now with the case? What are the latest things that people need to be watching out for? I know we've got the timeline that's been extended maybe to March of next year. So this thing just seems like it's never going to end.
Yeah, it is dragging on a little bit. I guess the latest news came out 2 days ago was that Judge Netburn, it's Judge Torres and Judge Netburn who are both presiding over the case, and Netburn is calling for a conference next Tuesday in person between both parties to kind of hash out what the SEC is now saying. They started off saying that the Hinman speech and the emails that went into it, it was all his personal opinion, was nothing to do with the agency. The judge ruled, okay, well, if that's the case, then you will turn over these documents to Ripple and we can see what's in the emails. The second she did that, they came out and said, oh, actually, just kidding. We think it should be protected under attorney-client privilege now because, Hinman was acting as a client of our SEC attorneys when he asked for those, opinions to go into the speech. So that is happening on Tuesday, and I believe you can call in and actually listen to the proceedings and listen to the both parties kind of give their side. I spoke to lawyers, close to Ripple, and they seem to think that there could be, she might even come out with a verdict on, not a verdict for the case, obviously, but a an opinion on whether those emails should be shown on Tuesday when she's heard from both parties. I think right now she's trying to, she probably knows what she wants to rule on, but she, wants to get clarification from the SEC, clarification from Ripple, and then she might make a decision then and there. She might not. We might still be waiting for, her to make a few more decisions. So I think that is definitely a big thing to watch. That'll be Tuesday afternoon, I believe at 2. But it's that'll be interesting. The timeline itself, it's been pushed back, as you know. I think the judge Torres came out in the end of April, and she kind of said that she's going to move everything back. Motions to exclude the expert testimony, that's due at the end of August now, and then the summary judgments have to be briefed by November. So those are key dates. And something interesting that happened recently, as you know, is that John Deaton filed a request to be to not to give evidence because he's not allowed to and has amici status, but to kind of challenge what the SEC's expert witness said about the XRP holders and what their real expectations were when they bought XRP. This guy's name is Patrick Doody. He's been called by the SEC before. He was called in the Telegram case, I believe, and said the same kind of similar thing. Telegram was being accused of the same thing, selling unregistered securities. And he said that any reasonable buyers of the Telegram tokens could, at the time, should have expected profits from Telegram. Therefore, they were in the wrong. He's saying this about XRP holders as well. And John represents, over 67,000 XRP holders like me and you, who just, might have bought it because they thought it was interesting or they had hopes for it or, whatever the reason that they bought it is. They didn't know Ripple existed. And so they did not have reasonable expectations that Ripple was going to give them any kind of profit. So he's filed that. The SEC has filed a motion as well to push back on John. So that's also a thing to watch. And I think we'll be getting, a resolution from that, hopefully from the judge or John in the next couple of days. So a lot of things to watch. It's a very interesting case, and I feel like there's some lulls sometimes, and it's like, oh, is this case ever going to end? It's like, what's next? And there's so much waiting time, but it's got some things coming down the pike soon.
Well, in crypto they talk about a paid shill a lot. It seems to me as Patrick Doody is a paid shill for the SEC.
When you say shill, just educate me on that. So what is a shill? Is that someone who
basically what it means is somebody who just comes out and talks about a certain project or a certain thing in an over the top way that they may not actually believe that in what they're saying. There's no way that Patrick Doody believes what he's saying because he hasn't spoken to any XRP holder, correct?
Right. Apparently he has not spoken to any XRP holders. And, John, meanwhile, has spoken to plenty who have said the exact opposite of what Doody is saying. Like, these people had no idea Ripple existed when they bought XRP.
And doesn't he get paid for these appearances?
Who? Doody?
Patrick Doody.
I am not sure on that, but I do know that he works currently for a private consulting firm that was granted a government contract funded pretty much entirely by the SEC. It was a $4 million contract. It happened in, I believe it was 2018, they were granted. So, here again with the conflict of interest, right? It's like
The
he is talking on
bribes.
behalf of the SEC, and the SEC, is basically funding the company he works for. So I think, Ripple lawyers might capitalize on that if they want to push back and kind of expel that testimony from the court.
Yeah, well, I think we just continue to see these conflicts of interest. And every time someone comes into this case and makes themselves a public figure, such as Patrick Doody, the Ripple community is going to destroy them. It's going to pull every single thing from their background, every conflict of interest, every connection, every tie. And so people need to think twice before they come out,
Yeah.
for the SEC. Now, after this case is over, do you think we're going to see any changes to the SEC?
It depends the outcome, I really think. I know that, Brad Garlinghouse has said that, for Ripple, if they win, then they're going to go IPO. And I
Yeah.
believe that most likely Ripple will. It's a very successful business overseas already. I believe that it can be successful here too. We'll probably see, a big boom for them. If the SEC loses, I think we will see a change in the way that they're going after these crypto companies. I think there's going to be hopefully more disclosure from them. I think if they lose this lawsuit or they are forced to settle, then that's going to be a key factor in that. But you never know with the SEC, and I say it all the time. It's like you never know what they're going to come out with next. So
Yeah.
You would hope that there will be changes. If they win and Ripple loses, I think nothing's going to change, and possibly there will be more enforcement, more regulation by enforcement, which seems to be Gary Gensler's preferred method of ruling. So we will see. But I think everybody thinks that there needs to be changes at the SEC for sure. Just in terms of just in terms of clarity too, because Jeremy Kauffman, who is the CEO of Library, I've talked to him on a few occasions. He tells me that every time he's tried to talk to the SEC, they basically just say, "Oh no, we can't give advice. We can't tell you if you're doing this or that wrong." So it's just like, just tell me, what am I doing wrong? How do I operate better? And tell me how I can follow the rules. So that hopefully will change.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about that a lot because what we've seen is the SEC and the CFTC really, they want to put the cart before the horse. That they want to go after everybody before they create the regulation that people are supposed to follow. And that doesn't make any sense. And that's going to continue in ambiguity. And I think that might be the big change that comes out of this. Because when the SEC loses, I believe they will lose pretty dramatically here. I think there will be a settlement because it's just so much in Ripple's favor to be able to take a settlement instead of going all the way to the end and seeing what ultimately the judge will decide. But I think even if we get all that, what the SEC is going to find is going to be impossible for them to win these cases when they don't have the regulation and the clarity. So hopefully that's what we'll see. Right now, it seems, though, that the SEC is the most, and Gary Gensler himself, the most self-unaware people that exist in the world. That's the way that sees. Everybody is looking this, and everybody who's been following this case knows where this is going. So we'll have to see what happens with it. Maybe we'll get big changes. But Ellie, thank you so much for coming on. And if you could, TJ, drop her Twitter in the chat and in the basement as well.
Will do.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. And I'd love to join again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. When there's some more developments, we'll definitely get you back.
There's some more news.
Okay. All right.
Sounds
see you,
good.
Ellie. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.